What up, Wastelanders? Christopher here, Gaslands, NorCal. Thanks for joining me once again for another conversion video. Now, last week when I was doing my video, I did some stripes across the hoods and the tops of the builds, and that got me thinking. I haven't done a video that showcases the different techniques that I use to do stripes in quite a while. So that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to make it a twofer. We're going to be using two of these 1966 Matchbox Dodge Chargers to do some stripes and to show you how I do my stripes, whether it's a sponge or tape or whatever. So we're going to make it a twofer this time. We're going to show how I do my different tools and tips and tricks for striping. That's striping 1P. But first things first, you know what we got to do? We got to get these babies apart, get her into the strip. Alright, so we're all primed up and ready to go. Stripped, primed with the Gray Sear Prime from Citadel on both of them, so we get kind of the same, you know, comparing oranges to oranges or apples to apples or pumpkins to pumpkins or whatever you want to do. For the base coating, we're going to be using the Vallejo Express color. We're going to do the Mystic Blue on one of them, and then we're going to do the Dreadnought Yellow on the other one. Now I'm going to do the different colors because I want to show the contrast and the choices and how everything's going to matter when you're doing your stripes, how you want contrasting colors and different types of striping and everything else, so it'll show up better and look better on your build. So first, let's get one in the blue and one in the yellow, and then we'll go from there, but let's get some color going on. Alright, so we're all base coated up in the yellow and the blue. I really am enjoying the Vallejo Express color. I like how it lays down. I like that you don't have to add any more agrax or weathering or anything at this stage. I mean, I do later on, but just the first base coating, it looks very, very good. Just going down with that first coat, goes on real easy and smooth, like I said. So first, we're going to be working on the blue one. And now we're going to be doing the striping with a couple different methods. We're going to be using some tape on this one, some sponge on this one, and also using a couple different paints. I'm going to be doing it in a red, white, and blue kind of theme, and I want to transition from the blue, and then we'll do some sponging white stripes, and I'm going to make it a very, very wide white, and once that dries, I'm going to tape off the sides, and then I'm going to hand brush with the red down the middle. So it'll be a red stripe, white stripes, and then down transitioning into the blue. So let's get that started. I'm going to be using just a smaller sponge with a little on a stick basically, and sponging the white. I'm going to start off with the white blue on the outsides and probably cross over on the insides, and then I'm going to do a final heavy white titanium stripe right down the middle, tape it off, and then do the red to make it the red, white, and blue. So let's get started with the white, blue, and then we'll let it dry and see where we're at. Alright, sponging's all done, it's all dried up and everything. And that's one thing when you're choosing your paint to do sponging for stripes, as in it's different if you're doing like different techniques for rusting and everything else. You want to choose a paint that is going to go on there and not leave a whole lot of bubbles. I know that if I use the MIG light rusty yellow, it will bubble up and everything, which a lot of times that's the effect that I want, but not if I'm just doing a straight stripe that I want to look relatively good on the actual casting. So definitely use a thicker paint. That's why I went with the acryl, the white blue, and obviously the heavy white titanium is very thick. So, and you can see it went on there really well. No bubbling and everything else. Just the speckled look that I was going for with the sponge effect. So next, I'm going to go through and I'm going to put a piece of tape on either side of the white, so there's just the one stripe down the middle. And I'm going to use the Vallejo carmine red to hand paint that stripe right down the middle, and I'm using this kind of tape that you use for all sorts of taping off miniatures and stuff. And the brush that you want to use when doing this kind of stripe should be a very soft brush. The newer the better, so the bristles and everything aren't all scratchy, because that way you will get less paint lines when you're doing the stripe. So let's get it all taped off, and then we'll get the red stripe down the middle and let that dry and see how it turns out. But yeah, looking pretty good. Alright, tape is off and everything. Stripe's looking pretty good. A little bit of bleed over, but you know, it's the Wasteland, so what can you expect? The only thing is, obviously the white is far too wide than what I really want. So we're going to do kind of the reverse. We're going to go back to the Mystic Blue from Vallejo again, and using the airbrush, we're just going to kind of reduce the size of the white, and there's going to be some overspray because it's an airbrush, and I'm not going to like use the smallest nozzle or anything else, but that will give a different effect for the splatter kind of stuff from the airbrush, as opposed to using the sponge. So let's get this white line kind of reduced, and we'll see how it looks after that, and see what else we need to do. So let's reduce some of this. Alright, so obviously with the airbrush there's a lot less control than if you're doing like with the hand brush and everything else. Like I said, there's a lot of overspray. I had to touch up a little bit of a few areas, and you can see with the white underneath the blue, it just gives a different coloring and everything else. The red still's coming through, so I've got the red, white, and blue that I was kind of looking for. So we're going to leave this, let it dry, and then we're going to go over to the yellow one and do a few different methods, still using some tape and the airbrush and stuff. So let's transition on over to that one. Alright, on to the yellow one. The yellow one, we're going to do it a little bit more basic as far as the coloring goes. We're just going to be using black, but we are going to be using 3 different sizes of tape. They do come in very, very small, and it gets gradually bigger, and it gets even bigger than this, but these are the sizes we're going to be using for this one. I'm going to take the very thin tape and do a stripe down the middle, and then the larger tape and tape off the sides, because I'm going to do a couple of black stripes on the top with a small stripe of yellow down the middle, and then the middle size tape I'm going to tape off along the line right here, and then we're going to use the black to kind of just touch on the bottom portion of the casting to do a kind of a black fuzzing, I guess you'd call it, on the sides. So let's get it taped off, and then we'll get the black on there and see how it looks, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's tape it up. Alright, so on this one, for the top black stripes, I cranked down the airbrush. It was just, barely coming out. That's why I took several more passes going back and forth to get the stripes on there. Opened up the airbrush a little bit more for the bottom portion and just kind of held back a little bit farther so it had more of a spray. That's why I'm getting the overspray on the top portion, which I was kind of expecting. But yeah, turned out really good. I'm liking that one more than the red, white, and blue one, just for how crisp and everything it is. Really have to make sure your lines are straight. These ones are a little bit wonky going down, but like I said, it's the Wastelands. This car is going to get wrecked and then blow up and everything else, so what does it matter? So let's get these together now. We'll start getting some wheels and weapons and everything on there, and get them all armored up and set for the Wastelands. But yeah, those are my striping techniques, at least a few of them that I use when I'm going to do stripes. Liking how everything turned out, liking the transition from the red, white, and blue. Like I said, I really like the crispness of the lines on the black and yellow. So let's get them together and start getting them ready for some carnage. So here we are, all put together. Now I'm going to pick out the wheels and weapons. I'm doing a lift kit. I got some new weapons from Anvil Industries that I'm going to be using, and their rams, which are just awesome. So let's get everything painted up and put together, and we'll see what it's going to look like. Hills, yeah, so pre-put together, the decals for these two are just outstanding. The red, white, and blue, they're coming from Rust Belt Customs. The black and yellow are coming from Fallout Hobbies. They say for miniatures, it's faces and bases that make the build. This one's definitely decals and wheels that make the build. So let's get everything together and we'll see how they look. All right, and there we have it. Two 1966 Matchbox Dodge Chargers, all stripped and striped and ready for the Wastelands. I really do believe that the decals and the wheels make the build, especially if you're just using something that you're not going to be messing up, doing a lot of rust and everything else. You want things that are going to pop and everything else. These decals from Fallout Hobbies are just outstanding. They are actually our sponsor for the 2025 Gaslands NorCal Season of Carnage. Really appreciate them. They do some great work. Got really great STLs, really great decals, everything else. Definitely check them out. The weapons and the RAM are coming from Anvil Industries. They do a great job. Even coming from overseas, definitely invest in that if you're in the US. The shipping doesn't take that long at all, and it's definitely worth it. The red, white, and blue, Rust Belt Customs, love their stuff, always do a great job. This one actually, I'm hard pressed to say which one is going to be my favorite. They both turned out so cool. I'm just absolutely loving both of these builds. I hope you all enjoy this video. If you learned something, do me a favor, hit that like button. My goal is to do weekly videos with their vehicle builds, terrain builds, battle reports, whatever. So if that's for you, hit the sub button below and ring the bell to get notified when new content drops. I do sell all my builds pretty inexpensively on my Etsy page, so if you want to see what else I've done, you can even request a custom build. If you'd really like to show some love, head on over to my Patreon page and get signed up. Every little bit helps keep the paint flowing, the printer printing, and the camera rolling. Until next time, keep your foot on the gas and your finger on the trigger. Gaslands NorCal, signing out.
Ha 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 ha!